I mean, do you think if that show premiered, this year, now, like after, many years after it premiered, would it still have the same relevance? Or it's interesting.
No, it is interesting, and I feel like it hit at a certain moment, and I guess to answer your question, I would say no.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it was so timely in when it came, and I feel like we were all ready for it. I feel like the underdog story was so prevalent, and whoever was in the White House was so prevalent, and it was just, it was a certain moment.
And what a moment it was. Glee was a hit from the start. The television show's pilot episode attracted nearly 10 million viewers. It would retain nearly 7.5 for that first season run, including nearly 4 million in that target 18 to 49 demographic, which advertisers love. Also, Glee had a secondary cash machine in which songs that were featured on the episodes would typically rise to the top of the charts. Not only the versions that the cast would sing, but also the original songs by their artists. People loved getting a song on Glee and actively campaigned for it. Glee was the brainchild of Ryan Murphy, who would go on to create the American Horror Story franchise and the Netflix show Hollywood, amongst many others. The show would run for 6 seasons and would conclude in 2014, and it brought a ton of fame to those that starred in it. But the legacy of Glee in recent years has become tainted. Some may even say there is a curse on those that starred in it and those that produced it. Most recently, and the reason why I'm doing this video, most recently is the tragic disappearance of Naya Rivera, who went out on a trip with her son, and she is presumed deceased. We'll get into her story, and we'll talk about all the tragic stories that have befallen the cast and crew of Glee. In this episode, we talk about, is Glee cursed?
A star of the popular show Glee found dead in his hotel room in Vancouver. The body of Cory Monteith, who played the character Finn, was found by the hotel staff. His sudden death stunning co-stars and fans.
The very first death to rock the show, and the moment the fans actually say was the end of Glee. The death of Cory Monteith, the talented Canadian actor. He had once been a people greeter at Sam's Club in Canada and had risen through the ranks of fame very quickly. He had a bright future ahead of him, and even though he had struggled with alcohol and drugs, he had come through it and was actually doing really well, which is why it surprised people so much when he was found dead in his hotel room. He had also begun dating Lea Michele, the other lead of the show, and they were essentially the king and queen of Glee.
I'm not running from my past. I did some bad. And like that, is this, are you on this long personal journey? Do you feel like it's a personal journey?
Yeah, I mean, I just try and do the next right thing, I just try and do the next right thing. That's all I can say. It's when you have this whole fame thing, it just seems like so many opportunities. I see it as so many opportunities, and there are many opportunities to do the next wrong thing.
The next tragic death from Glee would be that of talented singer and talented actor Mark Salling. And he would deal with demons far darker and far deeper than any of his cast could have imagined. He ironically dated Naya Rivera before this came out about him, what would eventually lead to his death. And she seemed to know that there was some secret that Mark was hiding.
You weren't surprised when the child pornography charges came about.
He always was a very dark soul to me.
Naya Rivera speaks out on her ex-boyfriend and fellow Glee star, Mark Salling. In June, the actor pleaded not guilty during his arraignment on 2 charges of child pornography.
Naya would actually go on to write in a tell-all book about her life and about particularly the romance between her and Mark, that she was so grateful she was not still with him. She didn't want to be in the house when the battering ram from the police came in. And this story, this interview she did, was actually done well before they knew the full extent of Mark Salling's depravity. Initially pleading not guilty, Mark Salling would quickly reach a plea deal when it was clear he was going to spend the rest of his life in prison.
But we agreed to a deal in which Mr. Salling will serve at least 4 and up to 7 years in federal prison. But this is well within the heartland of the typical case that we prosecute.
Horrifyingly, when police revealed what they had seized from the Salling residence, mainly his computer, more than 600 videos of child pornography, nearly 30,000 images, this was no small-time situation. This was pure evil. He even had a manual that discussed how to abuse younger girls and get away with it. TMZ would report later that he had attempted suicide by slashing his wrist, but had been unsuccessful and had been asked to be taken to a hospital, which he was. But later on, as it was becoming more and more clear that he would serve significant time, a woman came forward and accused him of rape. He did what many had expected him to do, and in late January of 2018, in a park near his home, Mark Salling was found hanging from a tree. Tragedy would hit one of the crew members of Glee when in February of 2014, talented production assistant and sister of Hollywood superstar Julia Roberts, Nancy Moats, would commit suicide. She was just 37 years old. Also in 2014, very talented producer Jim Fuller, who had also built a name for himself on It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, would pass away from a massive heart attack at only 41 years of age. In 2014, yes, 2014, that seems to be the year that a lot of this is going on. Lesser-known Glee actress Becca Tobin, an actual distant relation of mine, met with her own personal tragedy when her boyfriend at the time, nightclub entrepreneur Matt Bendrick, passed away in his hotel room. And recently, the show has even dealt with its fair share of drama as former star Lea Michele has been hit on all sides after affirming her support for Black Lives Matter on Twitter. Samantha Ware, a cast member in the later seasons of Glee, would go on to say that was news to her after she made her a actress of color, her first acting gig, that Lea Michele made her life a living hell. And she went on to voice some of the things that Lea had done to her and said to her. Many of the cast members of the show would back up the claims of Samantha and say that Lea was absolutely a bully on the set. Lea would later apologize, but she has, as of this moment, lost a number of endorsements. And tragically, Naya Rivera, who had went out boating with her 4-year-old son, and when they did not come back at the specified time at the rental agency, employees inquired about the boat. They found her son asleep on the boat with his life vest on. When they talked to the son, he and his mother had went out swimming. He had come back to the boat, and his mother, Naya, did not. Her life vest was inside the boat. Divers and helicopters have been looking all day Wednesday and Thursday. There has been footage, the last known footage, of her and her son getting on the boat. No one else was on the boat but them. And this was the most recent statement from police.
We've had no indication after talking to her son that Ms. Rivera made it to shore.
And so what started out as a rescue mission has turned into a recovery mission. And they will continue that search. Such a tragedy. A show that meant a lot to so many people. Is it a curse? Or is it just the pure fact of working with hundreds of people on a production, life is going to happen? I want to know your thoughts. And I know our thoughts and prayers are with the Rivera family. Thank you for watching.